Hey everyone, welcome back to Chessway. In today's video, we're diving into an absolutely fascinating chess battle played between the legendary Tigran Petrosian and Cos Malcolm. This game took place on April 12, 1962, and trust me, this one is crazy. Alright, let's get into it. The game begins with e4 and c5, the Sicilian defense. Then, knight f3 and pawn d6. White continues with pawn d4. Okay, we're going straight into the main line here. Pawn takes pawn, and after the recapture with the knight, black plays knight to f6, attacking the pawn. Petrosian calmly responds with bishop to b5 check, and Malcolm blocks with his bishop. Normally, you'd expect bishop takes bishop, right? Then, after the recapture, white defends the e4 pawn. But no, Petrosian does something different. He plays pawn to c4, protecting the bishop instead. So, Malcolm simply captures the bishop, and after the recapture with the knight, of course, the knight takes the free pawn. Alright, after that, white brings out the queen to f3, attacking the knight. And now the question is this a blunder, or is Petrosian setting a trap? Because if the knight moves, the queen can grab the pawn on b7, attacking the rook and the a7 pawn twice. But because of that earlier c4 move, Malcolm counterattacks with queen to a5 check. Now this position looks amazing for black, but guess what? It's actually a blunder. Yeah, this position is wild. If you just look at the threats, black seems dominant, while white's only visible idea is knight to c7 forking the rook. So you'd think blocking with the knight is fine, but Petrosian, being Petrosian, blocks with the bishop instead. Remember, the queen has to defend the c7 square, so the knight captures the bishop, and now there's a potential discovered check and an attack on the queen. Petrosian just takes the pawn on b7 with his queen. The brutality begins, my friends. But hold on, let's analyze this. We need to understand the real purpose behind this wild sacrifice. In the actual game, the knight took the pawn on c4. So why didn't he take the knight with check instead? Because if he did, there's queen to d2 check next move, forcing the king to f1, and the knight can escape with another check. Then, king to e2, putting pressure on the knight, forcing the queen to multitask. Here, black must play pawn to e6 or e5, giving up the rook and the knight. Why? Because if white's threat is ignored, for example, knight takes c4, the real idea is queen to c8 check. And after the queen is forced to block, knight jumps to c7. Checkmate! Wow, look at that! What a beautiful checkmate. Black wins all that material and still gets mated. And here's the best part. Only the knight moves in the final attack. That's the beauty of white's play. Alright, let's go back to the game. Now that we know the threat, even if the knight tries to check on b3, losing the rook doesn't matter, because queen to c8 check still delivers the same idea. So, the knight decides to take the pawn on c4 check, trying to help defend the king. Knight to c3 is a natural move, but instead white pushes pawn to b4. The queen still has to protect the d8 square, but she takes the pawn. Then, knight to c3 blocks the check. The knight retreats to b6, defending both the rook and the c8 square. But now, white's knight jumps to c7, forking the rook. After king to d8, should the knight take the rook here? Maybe defend the knight first, with rook c1. But again, Petrosian shows something brilliant. He castles short. He's still sacrificing the knight. This position is incredibly complex. If black takes the knight, a rook will swing to c1 for sure. But if he doesn't, the knight becomes an even bigger headache. Eventually, black decides to take the knight. And like I said, rook from a to c1 attacking the queen. The queen runs to a5, maybe trying to defend d5 or a6. But now, it's the perfect time for white to capture the rook. Now, queen to a6 could have still kept the game going, but with all this pressure, you can totally understand the panic. Malcolm instead plays knight to d7, and that is a disaster. He literally blocked his king's only escape square. Sure, it saves the knight and guards two squares, but now it's over. queen to c7 check, king forced to e8, and of course, the queen sacrifice on c8 with check. And right there, Malcolm resigns. Yeah, Black's calculation wasn't bad. He just didn't see that one deadly knight waiting to finish everything. Can't really blame him, though. White's attack was insanely aggressive. Let's see what would have happened if the game continued. After the queen sacrifice, the knight must capture. Then, rook takes back with check. After the queen blocks again, the game ends with knight to c7, smothered checkmate. Wow. A piece of art on the chessboard, my friends. Like I said earlier, he probably forgot that the knight could end it all. And look closely, this smothered mate is protected by the queen. That's pretty rare. Usually, it's the rook standing there. Whatever it is, this remains one of the rarest and most artistic checkmates in modern chess. And alright, my friends, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it entertained you and taught you something beautiful from Petrosian's genius. If I made any mistakes, please forgive me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time, chess lovers.